And rescuing recycled and wasted food. The program will begin momentarily.
The agronomy farm is on the URI campus. URI was founded as a college of agriculture. The agricultural experiment station actually predates the university itself by 4 years, and we've always had farms on campus.
We're here at the University of Rhode Island's Gardener Crops Research Center, which is informally known as the Agronomy Farm. And it's where we conduct research on vegetable crops, for instance, grain crops. And it's also a great teaching resource for the University of Rhode Island. So we hold labs here and classes. So it gives students hands-on experience. You know, I just love to grow plants, I love to grow food, and I just really enjoy imparting some of my knowledge to them and seeing them grow and develop through our Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems program.
I work with students in 2 different ways. So I have my classes where we're working in a large group, but then I also use a lot of student labor in my projects. So I have a lot of students who work for me, and we're working much more one-on-one, and we really get to know each other. A lot of the students I've had over the years are now the farmers that I work with.
My name is Farid Geshem. I'm originally from Iran, and I'm working on saffron here and also on vegetables. This year is the 4th year that we work on saffron, and every year we had the acceptable or good yield, and even more than twice as Iran. In Rhode Island, all the farms are so small, and saffron is a best option because farmers no need to have the machines, and it's great for this area, I think.
So here at the agronomy farm, of course, I'm always harvesting food from my plots. And so our food is donated to a variety of organizations and groups. So some of it goes to the Rhode Island Community Food Bank. Some of it goes to the Johnny Cake and Food Pantry, for instance, in Wakefield. Also our own graduate village, because we do have food insecurity issues here on campus. And so, of course, it's the University of Rhode Island, and we want to take care of our own.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Catherine Flynn, and I'm the Executive Director of the University of Rhode Island Business Engagement Center. And I want to welcome everyone to the business case for reducing, rescuing, and recycling wasted food. This is the second installment of a series of events that we've held that are building on the discussions that took place in the 2021 Food System Summit back in January. We hope this event will help to continue the conversation and will help us as a community move forward toward greater food security for all Rhode Islanders, which is very much needed, especially has been during this pandemic. We hope you enjoyed the video we just showed. It was of our URI agronomy farm, and there are several other videos on our URI Food Center website if you want to learn about some of the other farms at URI. We look forward to hearing more today from URI's dining own Tom Cronin about how the university itself is reducing food waste in its dining halls in today's session. Today, we partnered with the Center for EcoTechnology, who has organized this event. Today's panelists will discuss creative approaches to reducing, rescuing, and composting wasted food. It is the hope that participants today will leave with an understanding of the steps to establish programs and awareness of key pitfalls and considerations for success, and curate a list of resources to help them on their journey. To kick off this event, I would like to introduce Corianne Mansell, who will be our MC for the day. Cori is the Strategic Services Representative at the Center for EcoTechnology. Cori leads CET's food waste efforts in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and other Northeast states. She helps reduce and recover wasted food by offering technical assistance to businesses and institutions, and also helps content resources for states and cities looking to identify wasted food solutions in the Northeast. Welcome, Cori.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you, University of Rhode Island, for inviting us to host this session. I'm really excited to be moderating it. So to jump right in, many of us are coming to realize that up to 40% of food grown and imported in the US is wasted. And of that, 40% of that waste is generated by consumer-facing businesses like grocery stores, restaurants, institutions, and other food service providers. I know this can seem daunting, but in actuality, there are many opportunities to tackle this waste. We can prevent it, we can rescue the edible surplus, and we can also send the wasted food to feed animals, create nutrient-rich soil amendment, or create energy. Therefore, businesses and institutions across New England and across the country are working with community groups and service providers to address wasted food. But at the end of the day, we're also wondering, what is the motivation to implement these programs? So today we will hear from our panelists about their creative partnerships, innovative thinking, and the business case for reducing, rescuing, and repurposing wasted food. First, we'll have the series of panelists present their topics and their experiences, and then we will have time for questions at the end. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. And also, I'm excited as Corey Ann Mansell, Strategic Services Representative at the Center for EcoTechnology, to be moderating this panel. At this time, I will introduce Abby Macero, my colleague, an environmental field specialist at the Center for EcoTechnology, or CET for short. Abby will start us off by speaking to the best practices for establishing programs across the EPA food recovery hierarchy and how CET can provide tailored recommendations to your business or institution. Thank you, Abby.
Thanks, Corey. Hello, everyone. Again, I'm Abby. I'm with CET. Thank you so much for attending this Rhode Island Food Summit workshop, and thank you for URI for hosting or inviting us to host. Today, we'll be talking about how and why reducing, rescuing, and recycling food waste makes sense for your business and or institution. So a little bit more about who we are at CET. We are an environmental nonprofit located in Massachusetts that helps people and businesses across the country reduce their waste and conserve energy. CET implements and strengthens waste reduction, recycling, and food waste diversion programs for businesses and institutions of pretty much all different sizes. CET has really been a leader in the commercial food waste space for over 20 years. And thanks to our partners, including Rhode Island DEM and the EPA, we are able to offer no-cost assistance to businesses and institutions in Rhode Island. Much of our experiences and resources developed are due to us administering the Recycling Works in Massachusetts program, so you'll see that logo on some of our resources that we have. So today we're going to be talking about the business case for preventing and diverting food waste. Firstly, many cities and towns and states across the country have enacted regulatory requirements for businesses to find alternatives to the disposal of food waste. So in Rhode Island, if you are a business and if you generate 2 tons of food waste per week and you are located within 15 miles of a facility that accepts food waste, you must divert food waste from the trash. And again, there's a marketing edge to this too, since it's pretty much in to divert your waste and things like that right now. So being green and showcasing your environmental commitment is a way to appeal to your customers and makes your employees feel good about your business. And your business or institution may have a goal that they want to achieve, reducing 20% of your waste by 2030, something like that. So reducing food waste might help you reach that goal. And we're going to talk pretty heavily about this today, but food waste prevention and recycling may save your business money. So I think it's important to share the broader picture of food waste before we talk about some strategies and solutions for managing it. As Corey mentioned, up to 40% of all food that's produced in the United States that's intended for consumption is not eaten. And that equates to about 20 pounds of food per person each month. Yet 1 in 7 Americans is food insecure, and that's a pre-COVID number, so that probably looks very different now with unemployment rates and business closures. So essentially, food that is produced and not eaten costs us money, and food that's produced and disposed of in the trash that are sent to landfills releases greenhouse gases, and when they could be diverted to somewhere else. So your organization can have a positive impact by having a diversion strategy in place for your food waste. In addition to producing methane when sent to landfills, when we waste food, we actually waste energy and water that is all required to grow, harvest, transport, and package it. So this slide quantifies the carbon impact of various reduction strategies. And we're going to review some of those strategies, as this graphic might look familiar to some of us. This is the EPA food recovery hierarchy, in which food waste diversion strategies are prioritized to most preferred at the top to least preferred at the bottom. So at the top, we have the highest priority that has the greatest impact, which is source reduction, or overall preventing food waste before it occurs. After source reduction, we have feeding hungry people or developing a food donation program. And then we have sending our food scraps to feed animals, or partnering with an animal feed operation. And next we have industrial uses like anaerobic digestion, so sending our food scraps to create energy. And next we have collecting your food scraps separately from the trash to be sent to a commercial composting operation. And we call that source separation whenever we're separating food scraps to be sent somewhere else other than the trash. There are many opportunities across this hierarchy to really maximize the value of our food. And CET can help you at any level of this hierarchy, as we've created guidance documents that detail really that how-to information to begin these food recovery strategies. So to encourage and support wasted food reduction, donation, and recycling, the EPA and the USDA have partnered to set the goal of reducing food waste by 50% by 2030 as a nation. So this slide is a snapshot of our Wasted Food Solutions website, where you can search for state-specific resources by selecting your state. CET also put together an organic waste ban toolkit to help state policymakers design and implement organic waste recycling laws. And since its release, additional states like New Jersey have passed legislation to mandate the recycling of organics. And this legislation has impacted the infrastructure for managing food waste across the hierarchy. And what I mean by that is, as these new legislation was implemented, more compost sites have come online and more food rescue organizations have started, which means that there's now more opportunities to feed hungry people and compost your food scraps. So you can check out our toolbox on our Wasted Food Solutions website that has those state-specific resources, case studies that can really help you visualize what these different programs look like, and guidance documents for food donation, source separation, and overall reducing your food waste. Listed on our website is also our hotline email and phone number, so you can actually call CET and ask a question to a real person, because it's this hotline is staffed Monday through Friday, during regular business hours. So you can ask a question about food waste, or be connected to a hauler, or be directed to resources on our website. And also, by calling our hotline, you can ask to receive free technical assistance. So during this time, we are offering many opportunities for virtual technical assistance in Rhode Island via Zoom or any other platform that your business or organization is used to using. We can evaluate how waste is currently being handled from your restaurant, kitchen, or corporate office building or university, and then prepare a customized written recommendation report on those various opportunities that we observed could be implemented to recycle or divert food waste. We can also help you conduct a cost impact analysis to determine how your food waste diversion program will save your organization money, and to re-emphasize all of our assistance is offered to businesses in Rhode Island at no cost. And I wanted to highlight some examples of our signage that we provide as part of our assistance. So we provide PDF signs and can slightly tailor them to each business, including adding your company logo. An accurate and clear signage is really just an important step when implementing any new waste program or strengthening an existing one. And we also have translated versions of these available too. So let's talk about first food waste prevention, also known as source reduction. Food service operations might use source reduction technology platforms like Food or LeanPath. And these tech platforms translate wasted food into dollars and cents to show you opportunities to save money on food costs by maybe better preparation practices or switching up your purchasing. So the first step to reducing food waste is really conducting a self-analysis to understand where food waste comes from at your business and why. You can use technology platforms like the ones I just mentioned, or informal methods like just using a pen and paper and keeping a journal of it. The important thing to track when waste occurs, like prep waste, spoilage, and what customers are wasting. Then you can take the information from what you've learned from doing the self-analysis and modify your practices from there. And CET has worked with some great organizations that have source reduction techniques, and some are really just quite simple, and I think that you could take and run with today. So the first one is a hotel that changed their buffet trays from 4 inches to 2 inches to make the buffet look fuller and more appealing. Also, using a smaller buffet tray allowed for less food to sit out and be wasted. The University of Massachusetts uses pineapple and cucumber cores for their fancy waters. And the University of Rhode Island, who we're going to hear from Tom today, they reduced their food waste by using TV monitors so that their cooks could see the crowd and portion food accordingly to who was in the dining hall at that time. They've also done a better job of diverting food that was in a warmer and repurposing it in other meals. So looking forward to hearing more from Tom later on. And according to the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, 1 in 4 Rhode Island households lack adequate food. So there are many local partners that your business or institution can work with to rescue your surplus food and ingredients and then distribute it to the local food insecure community. So we have My Elijah Project that's with us today, the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, We Share Hope, and Riverside Church. I can also note that Road to End Hunger partners with the Means database to connect generators of edible food to food rescue organizations. Diverting edible food and ingredients instead of throwing that material away can make trash and compost pickups less frequent, which reduces disposal costs. We always want to be mindful of the material that we're actually diverting from the trash, which will allow us to reduce the size of our trash container. Donating food is usually always free as well, so that's a free food waste diversion strategy. So here is the array of outlets across Rhode Island that accept wasted food. Some sites accept material from across state lines. So Massachusetts outlets will take, material from Rhode Island, and Rhode Island might take some organics from Massachusetts. But this slide also shows how much of the state is covered by the radius requirement of the commercial food waste law. And CET can really help you find the right match for your business, as there are benefits and considerations for sending your food scraps to an animal feed operation, a compost site, and an anaerobic digester. So we can help walk you through all these different options. So one example of a quick and easy prevention strategy that ultimately saved this business money is Sauce, which is a restaurant in Boston. They average about $780 in cost savings by preventing potato skins from going into their compost bin. They chose to leave the potato skins on their award-winning fries instead of composting them. So that was able to save them money, and they have award-winning fries, so it must be delicious. Another example of creative reuse of food waste is a chip manufacturer in Connecticut. They utilize an animal feed operation with a depackager to send some of their food scraps to feed animals, and then their excess potato starch is sent to a makeup manufacturer, which increases the shelf stability of that starch material. Oops, sorry, I'm going backwards. So by diverting food scraps from the trash to a separate compost container, the Sheraton Hotel in Connecticut was able to save money as they were able to divert the scraps from their trash stream. They were able to reduce the size of their trash container. And again, this is really a key to saving money when implementing a food waste recovery program, as you'll be diverting food scraps from your trash or compost bin. But the Sheraton Hotel's composting program was able to see a cost savings of $2,500 by composting their food scraps. And this is actually a case study on our website that you can check out the video for. So I wanted to show you all our various CET's food waste partners. I will also note here that CET has partnered with Clean Ocean Access and the Compost Plant on the Healthy Soils, Healthy Seas initiative in Rhode Island. And this is a project that provides free technical assistance to businesses on Aquidneck Island and surrounding towns. And participants in this program have the opportunity to receive specialized assistance, subsidies on compost hauling, and many chances to be highlighted in social media campaigns and more. And we also have with us Chris from Stone Acre, who will be talking to us about his experience in that program. And just as a reminder, everyone, that CET supports your business in developing new or strengthening existing food waste management programs. So just give us a call. This is my contact information here, email and phone number, also our websites that you can check out and find our hotline. So thank you again to the University of Rhode Island DEM, and the EPA for your support and this opportunity to host the session today. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Corey.
Great, thank you, Abby. So that was helpful for us to set the stage and review the opportunities across the EPA food recovery hierarchy. As a reminder to our attendees, I do want to encourage you to send your questions or comments through Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We would love to address your questions or comments really after all the presentations. We'll have plenty of time at the end. Now I'm going to turn it over to Tom Cronin, manager of University of Rhode Island's Dining Services. And I don't need to remind this audience, but URI is a leader in the sustainability initiative. So I'm really excited to hear from Tom about how they're touching upon multiple levels of the EPA food recovery hierarchy. I'm sure we'll say that plenty of times today, but it is really important when we're thinking about all of those different opportunities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So starting talking about where we are today, I think it's important to talk about where we've been, where we've come from. In 2007, we had built the first, I think it was in the state, but it was definitely on campus, LEED Silver certified building. And it had the energy efficient roof. We had an energy efficient system put in. We had water reducers, and we also had bike racks and any number of things, energy efficient lighting. But the thing that I was most interested in was a new machine called a SOMAT machine, which was essentially like a food disposal, but instead of the food going down, the food got re-pushed back up, the water was expressed out, and it came out into a garbage can, kind of in the shape of in the consistency of oatmeal. The effect of that was to turn 9 bags of garbage into 1. So not only reducing the mass of volume, but also reducing 8 plastic bags from going to the Johnson landfill. So we were pretty excited about that. And at that same time, water conservancy was really important. And there was a lot of studies going on because a lot of colleges still were doing tray service, and everything was on a tray. And we were going to conferences and we were reading studies in trade magazines. Purdue had spent $250,000 to conduct a survey for their students on whether it would be okay to take the trays away. We saw about 3 or 4 of these different studies, and they all came up that it would definitely cut food waste, it would definitely save water, and it was just an opportunity to go trayless. So we just did it. We didn't conduct any surveys, we didn't spend any money. We just took the opportunity from what we had learned from these presentations and studies and implemented ourselves. And in fact, we did see a dramatic cut in food waste. We also saw 300+ thousand gallons of water a semester in water conservancy just by not having to wash hundreds of thousands of trays a semester. So very humble beginnings. And then in 2012, we took our real first dip into sustainability, partnering with a newly incorporated company out of Newport. Not only that, but they were graduates of URI, Newport Biodiesel. And in the past, we had paid to have our cooking oil taken away. And now we were actually, at first, we were getting paid to have it taken away, but it was in a container, kept nice. They pumped it, they took it out. And our partnership over the last 8.5 years has resulted in us being able to give 32,000 gallons of cooking oil to Newport Biodiesel. And I believe that converts to about 31,600 gallons of biofuel. I think there's an opportunity for us to close that loop if we could potentially get vehicles on the campus to convert to biofuel, and somehow we were able to get that back from them. But it's an opportunity, and it was our first real venture into that type of sustainability world. We really were making a difference. Moving forward, I think it's important. We can talk about composting and donation, but I believe it's really important to focus on preventing it from happening in the first place, as Abby had said earlier. We had tried, we were fairly, it was tough at first getting into it because some people came with an agenda about what it was. And one of the people came and they measured our waste and they said, you have a lot of waste. And it was on a day that we had chicken wings. And I said, are you accounting for the bone waste and the weight of the bone? That there really isn't waste there. And they didn't have an answer for that. And so we were kind of thinking, we appreciated what their message was, but we thought we could do it ourselves. And so we did take a less technical aspect to it. But what we've done over the years is we've put peer pressure on our cooks helpers, on our cooks, on our principal cooks, which is the equivalent in a restaurant of a kitchen manager. And we ask them to monitor themselves, and we monitor them and watch it on a meal by meal basis. We've also, as Abby said, we introduced cameras which allow the cooks to see the line and what's going on out there for any production that comes out of the kitchen. And that's helped us a lot to gauge in small batch cooking. And really, it begins at the part where we forecast and we do pre-production of it by getting the staff involved, by getting the cooks and the principal cooks involved in what the food is and how much to use, and converting cases into portions. We really were able to dial into our production and really eliminate quite a large bit of the waste that had happened. Another thing is to set up platforms on our menu for dealing with waste if we do have some leftovers. For instance, if we had Canadian bacon on in the morning, that can easily become put over to our pizza station and turned into Hawaiian pizza. If we had sausage in the morning, that could become our prep for our omelet station, and we do an omelet topping, and we just cut up the omelet. We don't have to add additional sausage to our prep list in the morning for that. We already have it. Eggs can go into the fried rice, anything like that. It's just ability to have that, and also to give the creativity to our staff so that they feel that they can turn some leftovers into some really crazy specials that they bring from their restaurant experience. And the students love it. And it's a great way for us to continue to reuse our materials that we have, that we do have some leftovers. We also have Net Nutrition, which allows a computer program, which allows the students to more readily see what's the meals they're eating, what's in the food, what's the allergens, what's the fat content, what's the protein content, making them less likely to throw the food away because they weren't aware of certain things. But inevitably, we will have waste, and we do have to address that. And in about 2017, I want to say 2018, Mike McCullough did a lot of work and partnered with the compost plant. And that was the first time we had somebody who was willing to come and pick up our compost and take it away. And not only did they do that, because a lot of places up until then would say, yeah, if you can get it to us, we'll be more than happy to take it. But we didn't want to be in the compost transportation business. So we partnered with them. And I can say that what they do is they provide the containers, they provide the truck. The truck comes, it takes the containers, it loads it into the truck. It then washes out the containers and puts it right back on our loading dock. So we have clean containers back again, less likely to develop any pest problems and things that would go with that, and the smell. They take care of that. So over the years, we've been able to divert hundreds and hundreds and thousands of tons of compost that would have been going to the landfill that is not any longer. It goes to compostable materials. Just about 3 years ago, it'll be just short of it, but we brought in a new director, and his message, on top of many others, was that he wanted us not to tell a good story, but to be a good story for the University of Rhode Island and the community and around. And so we were looking for ways to get involved. We were made aware of something that maybe not a lot of people are aware of with college students. I know we talk about food insecurity as a whole, but with college students, I think a lot of people think maybe they're more affluent or wealthy, or because they're going to college, they don't experience some of these problems. But we found that on our campus, it's very low compared to the national average. It's just about 10, 12%. But nationwide, it can be 20, 30, 40% of kids on campus could be food insecure. So we developed a program. We partnered with Swipe for a Cause, which allows students to donate a meal from their unused meal plan, and it goes to students who are in need of a meal that day. Since then, we've tried to amp up our responsibility to the Rhode Outpost, which is the local food pantry on this community. And as a matter of fact, we're proud to announce our first, hopefully annual next week, food drive specifically geared toward the Rhode Outpost to provide not only very targeted a list of things that they want with toiletries as well, because these same people that don't have the money for food may not have the money for soap, shampoo, toothpaste, and we're feminine products. We're trying to be as inclusive and make them feel as whole as we possibly can. And it's these incremental gains and making contacts with people that allows you to find other people that I really think is where we've strongly developed. I also want to thank Abby, because I will say that before her, most everybody that came talking about sustainability always came with an agenda, always came with a product to sell. And Abby's been anything but that. She has recommendations. She has overall things that don't apply to any one particular company. But overall, the goal is just about applying constant positive pressure towards moving forward, constantly moving forward. And she's always been very appreciative of the things we've done, but looking to us to improve from there and not make us feel like, you know, when you're starting out, sometimes you see these people doing these wonderful things and it's hard to think that your first step is going to be meaningful, but she always made us feel that way, which has been a great experience for us. She also set us up with the means database and introduced us to George Ortiz from the Elijah Project, which has been an outstanding relationship with us since November of 2019, when I think the first donation we made to them was 64 dozen plates, cups, and bowls. Because as a thing, you know, you think, oh, we'll donate food, but some of the people didn't even have smallwares or plateware to be able to eat the food that they were given. So we were changing over our silverware and our utilities, and we just decided that it was a great opportunity to start there. Since then, we've been able to donate 24,000 pounds, and I don't have the ability to convert that into meals, and to me, it doesn't really matter. getting calls from George over the, like I said, over the last 16 months, with him expressing his joy and his appreciation for the amount of help we've been able to do, really has been some of the most fulfilling stuff that we've had to deal with here. We also were able to take advantage of the fact that we didn't lay anybody off last year, even though our business had gone down significantly. And we were looking for ways to help, and we were able to donate 25,000 meals to elderly people throughout nursing homes in the state. A part of being a good steward of the community and of the state, even though they're people we don't normally represent or deal with, is the elderly. But we were able to not only make, but transport 25,000 meals, and we're very proud of that in the pandemic. We are really just trying step by step to get to a point where we kind of understand that, we're not going to succeed all at once, and there's kind of no finish line to this. This is something that the race just always goes on, and there's always room for improvement. We have had mistakes. We've done things. We're still not doing everything that we could do. The COVID crisis caught us a little flat-footed with, we're using, even though they're compostable, we're still using a lot of single-use items for to-go service, as everything has to be to-go, no seating in the dining rooms now. So we have plenty of opportunities for improvement, but we're just really proud of what we've done. We're proud of the partnerships and the friendships that we've made with these people, and it's a great opportunity. And I just want to say in closing, I'm probably at my limit, but one thing that is not kind of part of this, but I think it's important to note, is sustainability comes in a lot of different ways. And one of the things that we've been able to be very good with is sustainability, as far as it's very topical right now, is the living wage. And it's that concept of paying people a fair salary and hopefully not laying them off if you can't. And we've been very good with that. We've been able to maintain $15 an hour plus for every employee that comes in for at least the last 10 years. Not only that, but if they work 20 hours or more, they're entitled to benefits and time off and pension, and also the ability to, if they work full-time, they can get tuition reimbursement, free tuition to the university, and also for their children. And there's a ton of people here whose kids are going to college because of that offer. And that's something we're really proud of. We're just, thankful to the URI community for allowing that to happen and giving these kids an opportunity and giving our employees a chance to make a living wage where they can, support their family and provide for their children, and just really proud of it. And I think that's it. I'm sure there's some things I've missed, but that's the overall scope of it. And I just want to say that if you're new to this, contact these people, get in touch, because it's been an excellent experience for us. And we're at a good point now. And I hope in 2025, we're talking about 2021, like I talked about 2007 today to you starting off. And I hope we're that much farther ahead. And with the help of people and with the positive, reinforcement, I think that's going to be a really attainable goal. So thank you very much. I am in desperate need of a drink of water, so I'm going to dip off here for a second, but thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was really, really great to hear from you. I do hope institutions in the audience are inspired by your progress and your commitment to reduce wasted food on campus, seeing the multi-tiered approach where there's many benefits beyond, the one that immediately comes to mind. I appreciate the perspective that a robust program also means going back and evaluating, what's working, what can be expanded upon. So that was really, really great. Thank you. Switching gears from the institutional perspective, I'll now turn it over to Christopher Bender, Director of Operations at Stone Acre. Noted earlier, Stone Acre is participating in the Healthy Soils, Healthy Seas initiative, led by Clean Ocean Access. So if you are a participating resident, or if you're a resident or business on Aquidneck Island, I encourage you to contact us, or of course, Clean Ocean Access, to learn more. But here, I'll turn it to Christopher to talk about Stone Acre. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. I wanted to appreciate the University of Rhode Island, and especially the Center for EcoTechnology, for allowing us this opportunity and presenting this platform. Really, to start off, if made everything much easier than we could have ever anticipated in launching this program. So we have a small family of restaurants in Newport, and in general, Quidnick Island has been spurring a lot of the sustainable efforts that are going on kind of along our way, and making it easier for restaurants, which, you know, us being a sustainably focused restaurant predominantly based around whole food dining, puts us in a little bit of a conflicted zone. As mentioned in the past, you know, sustainable dining is very in, and we all want to be part of it, but as a restaurant owner and operator, you really realize how much waste is created in general. And even with wanting to create more whole food dining or work with whole animals or whole vegetables or directly with the farmers, that inherently means that we're receiving the product as whole. So we have more, as mentioned by Tom, you know, more bone waste, skin, different parts of the animal or vegetables that may or may not traditionally be used. So while we achieve successes and achieve abilities to champion some of the causes of working directly with these and reducing certain carbon footprints, it also puts a lot of social responsibility back on us to make good on the new burdens that we then have in our hands. You know, I assimilate a lot of this more recent trend into composting or food waste diversion to what recycling was for restaurants, you know, a couple decades past. And in a lot of ways, hoping that it really increases with more fervency, as while there's regulations in place that require many businesses to take part in these programs, they could certainly be more diligent and apply more pressure. As we see with going to restaurants in general, whether it's casual or fine dining, there's a numerous array of disposable products that are either thrown out or quite literally not recycled. So to take it a step further and get into composting and to get into food donation and food diversion, I think is really all of our responsibilities as being restaurant owners. So a little overview of our basic programs, many of which are familiar to most. We do, of course, the traditional waste diversion. We have all stream recycling on our end, of which we use through the same company. We also work with Newport Biodiesel, which definitely provides benefits and reduces one of the more caustic waste that is provided to the restaurants. And as of in the recent years, through Clean Ocean Access, 11th Hour Racing, and Healthy Soils, Healthy Seas, we got into the composting through the compost plants. So with that, we started initially with being, of course, hesitant like many, as how are you going to introduce yet another waste management program into your restaurant with a number of moving parts. We started initially just with our prep end of things. So the early day portion of things where there was a few less moving parts, whether it was larger stocks or sauces or simple vegetable prep. And surprisingly, we learned that even after doing it just for a few weeks, we realized how easy it was to basically wheel that entire bin right inside and start using it for all of our table waste. We've had our biggest challenges revolving around the daytime services, as whether it's morning or afternoon services tend to involve a lot more ancillary products that are not compostable, or at least not initially, whether it's sugar packets or little bits of condiments that are prepackaged, that especially during these times where everything needs to be prepackaged makes it a little bit more challenging. But much like many efforts, people are responding and creating products that have the biodegradable ends of things, and little packets can be disposed of in the same way. So we realized that the advancements, not only really more so outside of the restaurant, had come up to par with the products that are available to us. And we realized that pretty much everything we use in a restaurant on a day-to-day basis is compostable or recyclable. So as we got started with the program, we realized that we went from having compost picked up once a week to twice to even upwards of almost, I believe, 4 times a week during our busiest part. And that conversely had us changing our traditional trash or waste pickups from 3 or 4 times a week now down to only 1 time per week. And while a little bit more cost intensive on the front side to have some of this picked up as opposed to trash, we realized that it's not only was easier to do and had at least an initial financial impact, but then it allowed us to better analyze our food waste as it was quite literally all right there in front of us. So that allowed us to take some menu planning and steps into preparation to get into more traditional techniques of pickling or fermenting, or really just spurring different creative ideas of what to do with some of these products. Some of which we used in our traditional menu format, which is of course better for the business overall. But then spurring during just before COVID times and really ramping up once early COVID did hit, we spurred this into our food donation program, where we started not only basing some of these things that we were doing for the restaurant in a cost-effective manner, we started preparing these meals in earnest, 2 to 3 course meals for underserved youth and underserved families. Initially geared towards hospitality workers that were out of work, and then transitioning more to working with the International Tennis Hall of Fame and their Team Fame program, which again services a lot of underserved youth on the island and in the area for these certain school programs that were no longer in place. So, of course, running a successful business is rewarding, but what we found even more rewarding was to create these programs and divert some of these things, not for really accolades or marketing or anything of that nature, which did come along with it, which is certainly helpful, but really the reward of the gratification of seeing people who actually are food insecure to receive these benefits, which really spurred a lot of inspiration, not only for ourselves, but with our staff as well, to the point of people donating extra time, vendors donating extra product. So we were then stewards of not only our own waste, but stewards of charitable donation and good cause. I guess in summation, good things beget good things, and if we're taking the social responsibility in earnest and doing the best we can, not only for our business and with what waste is created, if we can find ancillary benefits, they really kind of all work together for us. So I certainly encourage any restaurant to get involved, as it's, again, far easier than I could have ever expected. And for anybody that does work with a lot of these vendors, working with the compost plant is by far the easiest and best vendor to be working with, as many other vendors of waste management are not as considerate, not as cost effective, and really not as conscientious for what not only we're doing as a business, but what we're doing for the environment. So I appreciate certainly them for doing quite literally the dirty work, and I'm sure it's not the most fun, but they do it day in and day out, and I think it leads by example, which really puts it all back on us to continue to follow that example and steward that example as best we can. So I really appreciate the time, and again, appreciate the University of Rhode Island and the Center for EcoTechnology for putting this all together.
Thank you, Christopher. You made a great case for why businesses should be looking at their waste and identifying opportunities to reduce it and compost it. Your closing sentiments are a great transition to our next panelist, because there is the importance of service providers and those that are rescuing the food, preventing it, composting it. So that's a really great segue to George Ortiz, the co-founder of the Elijah Project, and George will talk about how they're rescuing tons of edible food in Rhode Island, and how and why businesses can and should support this critical need in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. My name is George Ortiz, as she stated, and I'm one of the founders of the Elijah Project, and we've been around since 2011. Our focus at the beginning was to work with a couple of bakeries and recoup or save or rescue the day's bread and try to take it out the same day and reach a couple of people that were homeless around the Providence area. Smaller organizations started joining us, like Providence Bagel, and it seemed like for a while it was just bread. And then URI came in and started working with Tom, and we started rescuing everything, like he said, from plates to packaged foods to food that was prepared for students, and all of that kept increasing. And we started adding on supermarkets, and we started adding on Amazon and Costco and Whole Foods and all these different people that were really interested in not only making a difference with their business and through their business, but really interested in in what we call reduction of food waste. And that's the very first thing on that hierarchy that we're interested in, and how can we reduce food waste. But second to that is, once we have this excess food, what do we do with it? So we had to scale up during COVID. At the beginning of COVID, we were serving 500 families, all from mostly rescued food. So that's 500 families per week that were getting food from 25 Rhode Island restaurants, 3 universities, with URI by far being the only constant. At the end of December, we were at 47,000 families, and we ended the year with 21 million pounds. I think that's right, 21 million pounds of food that we rescued and or had a part in rescuing directly. So we quickly got in the business of warehouses and refrigerated trucks and all these different things that allowed us to rescue everything from excess fish. I have a Johnson and Wales. Last year, he gave me 300 and over. We helped rescue 300 pounds of scup that was like fine tuna grade, and it needed to get out right away. And those things would not have been possible if we didn't have the distribution system and the people to put those things out. So those are some of the things that we've been working on. So we've started working with smaller and larger organizations to try to help them, connect them with places like CET and the Means database. We're doing a lot of work through the Means database. So that's a good program that's been able to help smaller restaurants that cannot do this on a regular basis. So the reason I say that is because sometimes when I speak to these restaurant owners, not like Chris and his group, but they might have one small restaurant, and they think that they can't do something to be involved, and that's not true. So you don't have to just be on a regular schedule. It could be a situation, unfortunately, like the end of COVID. I found myself on Atwells Avenue rescuing tons of food from restaurants that unfortunately had to close. So there's all kinds of opportunities where we can divert these foods. And these foods, what we're doing on our end, depending on what the food is, sometimes there's direct service. Sometimes it comes back into our prep kitchens and is repurposed, if it's a frozen product, into individual meals that can then reach all of Rhode Island. So the common thoughts are that, that this only happens in the urban core and there's only a need there, but it's not true. We deliver food all the way down to Hope Valley, Gloucester, Burryville, North, and I've quickly learned that it's everywhere and people are in need everywhere. And if every restaurant took a little bit of that challenge and said, how can we help this footprint? How can we help our community? And like Chris said, which I thought was great, they didn't do it for the accolades. The accolades are going to come anyway, because it's just a great thing to be able to help your community that way and think thoughtfully that way as a business leader. But that's what happens. And I encourage more and more people to do that, because we're feeding 47,000 families a week now. And some of that, if not 50 to 60, 70% of what we share with over 50 organizations now are entire trucks of things like tomatoes, or from the URI farm, squash. A funny thing about squash is that I found myself in the middle of the summer working inside the housing projects of Providence and Pawtucket, trying to teach different people what you can do with squash, because they didn't know what to do with it. So even that effort is introducing food into different communities that they normally would not eat. And I think all of that is just a big deal. And I think that everyone here on this panel, URI, is just trying to do something that we all should be doing, even in our own homes, is reducing our carbon footprint, reducing food waste, and then finding a way to share what we have with those that need it the most. I think it's a perfect cycle, even for us. Sometimes the product that we get from larger organizations might be right at its end, and it might go bad. So even that goes out to pig farmers. So even that's not thrown away. We have a system now where we work with pig farmers, about 4 or 5 of them in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and they have regular deliveries. So we just keep that process going. So on behalf of the Elijah Project, I just want to especially thank URI and Tom Cronin and CET for their introduction to the farm, 1, and 2. Oddly enough, that the dining plates were such a hit that it spurred us on to start thinking about more than just food. So I close with, we have 140,000 square feet of warehouse space now, and one warehouse is all food, and then the other warehouse is all the things that Tom said that the people down at, I think it was the Rhode team, are looking for. So everything from furniture to hygiene products, we now rescue from Walmart and Amazon. So thank you for that introduction, and thank you all for having me today.
Thanks, George. I hope attendees take you up on your expertise and are able to rescue more food with you or other great organizations such as Rhode Island Community Food Bank, We Share Hope, and others. And also thank you for highlighting Road to End Hunger and Means database. When I speak to other states and cities, I frequently reference this partnership because I really do think it's a great example of how a state can show that food recovery and the donation of edible food is important. At this time, we will have Andrew McQuestion, executive chef at North, talk about the creativity they incorporate into their kitchen to prevent wasted food. Thank you.
Hi there. So I'm Andrew. I'm the executive chef at North here in downtown Providence. And I just want to say thank you to URI and CET, of course, for having me. We've started over the last couple of years with composting projects, first with dealing directly with farms, and we would have a bin transfer program where one of our local farmers that we get things in from every week would come and they would bring like 2 big trash bags, or trash barrels rather, and we would fill them and swap them out. And that was like just the bare minimum of what we could do as far as like making sure that a lot of our food waste is not going to be hitting the trash. Since then, we've upped in scale a little bit, and we started working with Harvest Cycle in Providence, which is a bicycle driven compost company that like they come with an electric bike and a trailer, and they pick up our bins, and they have the same swap out program, which is like kind of really awesome because like not only are you getting the benefit of getting rid of that food waste from diverting it from the trash, but you're also getting it in a really green way by having an e-bike that's going to be bringing your bins to and from where they're going. And even that is just like the last resort kind of where our food waste is going. Here, we're only a 50-seat restaurant, but we have more food waste than probably normal restaurants because of the fact that we're getting in whole produce, whole fish, whole chickens, whole sheep even on a very regular basis. And so we're trying to find more creative ways to divert that food waste. Some of them are really easy, and then some of them we've had to like do a little bit of research and almost become like scientists and find out what kind of equipment we need for it and stuff like that. But like all of this stuff that we're doing here isn't really super hard as long as you are willing to put in the effort and you find that the flavor profiles that you can get off some of the things are just absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to run through a few of the like small scale projects that we do, go into some of the bigger scale stuff. But like the easiest thing that you can do is if you're peeling things or whatever, turn all of those scraps, if you have a dehydrator, into powders, and the flavor that you get is like so intense from even something like beet skins. And so like we have beet powder, and you can use this as a dye for things. We just recently used it for our Valentine's Day specials, where we were tinting cream cheese frosting with beet powder and powder from raspberries that were like kind of past their prime last year. And those things are so shelf stable that they can like last for almost ever. And they just add like flavor and they add color, and it's like something that, you know, you don't really have to work too hard on. You peel a beet, you throw the scraps in the dehydrator, put it in a blender, and then like all of a sudden you just have cool things to like splash color here and there. Another really easy thing that we do is making our own vinegars. Some of this is just seasoning vinegar with some of our food scraps. So like right here, I have some ginger vinegar, and that's just taking all of the peels off of the ginger, steeping it in vinegar, and just kind of like letting it hang out. And it does its own thing, and it'll tint the vinegar a little bit, but the flavor that you get is just like straight ginger right off of it. A little bit more advanced technique is like taking fruit scraps and fermenting the vinegar ourselves in-house. This vinegar right here is strawberry vinegar from last year's strawberry tops. And I mean, that one took a little bit longer as far as like time, but like if you have the time, it's so worth it, because the flavor that you get out of something that's naturally fermented like that is just absolutely insane. And all that is just the tops of the strawberries that would normally hit compost, hit trash. And they eventually do, like some of the scraps end up hitting compost, but at least we get a little bit more usability out of it. And I mean, that's like one of the easier ones. Another thing that we do is we make our own kombucha in-house. And so this one is a coriander kombucha that we have. Let me say, and this one is also really shelf stable as long as you have room in your walk-in. For that, we take herb stems, whether it be, that one is cilantro stems, and we just like brew a tea out of it, sweeten it. And as long as you have a SCOBY, which is like the mother of kombuchas, you're able to like let it hang out with enough time, and it turns into a beautiful product that you can use maybe to like season raw fish, or you can use it as a salad dressing or something like that. More technical things are things that we do with Koji. Koji is a mold that grows on different grains, and we harvest our own here in-house, and that takes a little bit of time as well. But it makes us, and it allows us to do things like make things like this. So this is a project that we have that's working right now. This is more beet scraps because we use a lot of beets, and a lot of people peel beets and they don't use the skins. We take our beet skins and we run them through a meat grinder with sunflower seeds, and then we add that rice that has a little bit of mold on it. It's not as scary as it sounds. We use temperature and heat controls and humidity controls, and we document everything with our HACCP plans and stuff. But that just takes a little bit of salt, Koji, whatever ingredients you have kicking around in time. We also do that with carrot scraps, and we did a batch last year of corn cobs, and we made that into a corn shoyu, which is kind of like a lighter soy sauce. And that just like the sweetness that you get out of things like that is just like absolutely amazing. One of the other things that we were able to do with Koji is also use it with meat scraps. And this is a little bit more of a delicate process. It takes not only time, but also heat. And once again, we have a specific chamber that we put everything in, and we let it hang out at 141 degrees just out of the TDZ, temperature danger zone for those that are unaffiliated. And we get to do things like, this was made out of all of the scraps that you take off of scallops. Scallops, when you get them, have like the little tab that you have to pull off because it's chewy and stuff. And so we made this, and it's basically like a soy sauce made out of scallops, which is kind of wild. And it's all usable product, and you can use it to season things. Once again, we did daikon radishes that looked like round scallops, and we put dressed it with some of the Scout garb, and it like kind of had a nice little play on things. But yeah, the other thing that we do here that is probably more important than any of these food projects is we also get in like food that farmers would probably have hit their own compost. And once a week on Mondays, we provide 50 meals for people that are in Kennedy Plaza downtown, just like a couple blocks from where we are. And the farms donate the food, and we, since we have the facility and right now we're takeout only, we have the time in the hands, we make 50 meals, and it's not that hard. We walk them down there ourselves, myself and the owner of the restaurant, James Mark, who is really, really focused on this as well, as far as like feeding the community and making sure that like we're not wasting food and we're able to like provide for people who are less fortunate. And that's probably one of the things that is the most rewarding on our end, because we are taking things, it's the reverse of what we started doing way back when, where instead of us giving our compost to the farms are now giving us their compost, and we're turning it into things that are keeping people warm in the middle of the winter. So yeah, those are just some of the fun things. I had a bunch of other stuff, but I think that we're running a little short on time. So I just wanted to say thanks again for having me, and I'll hand it back over to Corianne.
Great, thank you, Andrew. That was really great. I loved the show and tell aspect of your talk. I also want to thank the attendees for tuning in to hear about our panelists' successes, and we hope you are motivated to start your own programs. At this time, we will bring all the panelists back up for further discussion, and we'll start off with some questions. All right, we all back up, great. So I think number one, I'd like to ask the panelists, for those in the audience that are looking to start their own food waste diversion program, whether it's donation, prevention, composting, what would be your number one recommendation or tip? Abby, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, if you're just starting out and you don't really know where to begin, of course you could check out our website. I have to plug Wasted Food Solutions, but it just has so many resources of where you really start to evaluate what you actually have in your waste, right, in your trash can, and your recycling and all of that, and then of course doing that self-analysis to say, what do I have the potential to divert, and then talking with different service providers like, George from My Elijah, to see, as a result, what can I compost? What can I divert to a food rescue organization? And yeah, of course, CET is always here to help with that. We have our hotline, email and phone number. If you have no idea where to begin, then we can certainly point you in the right direction of that.
Yeah, if I was going to say anything, it would just be that you just start. I think the hardest thing is you take that first step because you're not sure, you're trying to, sometimes you just lose the good in search of the perfect, and I just think that that's, you just start, and good is good. And then as you get better, then it's fine. But I just think you just have to start, educate yourself, figure out what you're best able to try to do, perhaps contact, a group that is experienced in this, but really just you can start, and then that's really what you should do. You should just get going on it and worry about the specifics later.
You could always pilot a program too. So if you want to start it in one small, if you want to start composting one just back of house food scraps, like just your prep waste, and then expand it to other parts of your operation after you get that part figured out. So you can do the slow steps, but I totally agree with what Tom's saying. Just get started.
All right, we can move on to the next question. So, you all have very impressive stories and creative solutions in your kitchens, whether it's front of house or back of house. Would you say that your staff and students are excited about these initiatives? What have their reactions been? And are you showcasing your efforts either with your team or with your customers?
I would say it's a mixed. Some staff is indifferent, but more than willing to go along. And I think the easier the program is, and the more that user friendly it is, the more adept they are to follow along. And then I don't think there's anybody that's against it by any means. And then to a lesser extent, but definitely is an inspiring part, there are a few people on our staff and amongst the guests that are either aware or take a little initiative with it, which is definitely encouraging and definitely helps move it forward. But like Tom was alluding to, even just getting started is good. Anything you're doing is a step in the right direction. So it's quite literally better than not doing anything at all. And there's a lot of benefits that just naturally come out of it.
For me, I found that like some of my younger cooks and some of the people that even have been here for a while have really taken to the projects that we do, mainly because it gives them a sense of ownership over the menu, because they're coming up with creative solutions to use some of our waste. And also it feels really good to see like somebody who's like fresh out of culinary school, 21 years old, being able to like throw together their first batch of kombucha and be like, oh my God, look, I did it. And it's just things like that where it's like, oh man, like the more that we can do now, the more we'll impact the future, because that person is now going to end up probably at another restaurant eventually. They're going to be like maybe a chef somewhere, and maybe they bring that same mentality to wherever they work next in the future, and they're able to pass that along. And it's like one of those things where they tell two friends and then they tell two friends, and then all of a sudden you have this whole community of people who are like looking to do the same thing and use all of the food that they can, and really make sure that like not only are they being able to be creative, but they're being able to like help, because good is good. Help.
There are different ways I think you can incentivize, your employees. If you work in an office building, you can do different types of, incentives, like whoever can collect the cleanest compost wins a pizza party, when we're able to celebrate in person again. But there are ways to make it fun for your, staff, kind of like what Andrew's saying about it's a learning experience for them. So hopefully they feel good about what they're doing to reduce, improve your environmental impact. And if you're donating food, especially actually having an impact in the local community that needs that food.
And maybe directed at George, but also the rest of the panelists, what do you think the biggest challenge is for getting a business to start a food rescue program, and how can we help with that?
That's a great question. And back to Chris and Tom and Andrew and Corey, you just have to start, right? That's the first thing. You have to find the one person in that organization, whether it be the head chef or someone else or the owner, that's really committed to doing this thing, right? This is a passion. And I think that once you do that, contacting someone like CET that can say, hey, there's an Elisha project, there's a We Share Hope, there are these different people that will work with you, because one of the things that people are most afraid of is disruption. When they first start, is disruption in their flow. So for us, it's very important for us to sit down. Even now through COVID, it's a phone call. We have a new restaurant that's considering starting, and we had to sit down with them and explain how we would make it easy for them, how we would pick up the food, how we understood the serve safe procedures and everything else, so that they could feel comfortable. So I think the first thing is a conversation internally. And then once you've decided who's going to do that, then call someone like CET or someone like the Elijah Project or We Share Hope or anybody else, so that you can see how it can easily be facilitated.
Yeah, I'd like to add in here too that a lot of the businesses that we work with are sort of scared because of the liability. They think there's a potential like they could get in trouble for donating food or whatever that might be. But there are, federal and state protections that, protect businesses that donate food to nonprofit organizations in good faith. So they didn't knowingly donate something that was spoiled or rotten or something like that. So sharing that information with businesses that haven't gotten started and maybe they're addressing some pushback from their decision makers at their organization. And Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic has state-specific guidance documents all about liability protections in Rhode Island. So again, check out Wasted Food Solutions website for that document. So you are liability protected. And of course, transportation is something that I think, my Elijah, for example, will actually come pick up food from your site. So people are, I think, more willing to make it easier for them if you are picking up the material. I think it was maybe Tom who had mentioned earlier, like he wasn't going to drive his compost anywhere, right?
Right.
So making it easier for the business to do so.
And I will actually follow up with that as well, that in addition to some of those programs there, we found that over this past year that there's a number of state and federal grant programs that actually reimburse you for some of the donation efforts. So we've been able to turn what is otherwise some of our trash not only into positive donation efforts, but we've also been able to recoup some of the costs involved with those efforts as well, which have certainly had some benefits to the business and have only helped inspire further efforts with that, to the point that we're working on starting a 501c3 currently.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome to hear.
Well, we realized that it's actually way easier to not make money than it is to make money. So we figured we'd just kind of do that.
Well, kind of on that note, with looking at prevention strategies, can anyone talk about the cost savings that they're experiencing with the prevention strategies, or with composting or rescuing?
I would say that it went faster than we would have thought. I would say in a little less than a year, right around a year, is what it took for us to be cost even in terms of the amount that we began to save by minimizing our regular waste pickups and some of our recycling pickups to coupling with the additions that we've been able to turn some of our otherwise waste into profitable products. Some of the grants have definitely increased the scope of the program, the grant reimbursements, but even with that aside, the aforementioned stuff has all offset any of the subsidized cost of the compost pickup itself, which in terms of us, that's our biggest, really our only additional cost that we've had associated with it, which was again easily diverted within less than a year.
We also found, sometimes it's hard to put dollars and cents to, but we were able to go from kind of at pre kind of COVID, from scheduled pickups where we just, they were coming every Monday morning and stuff. For a while, we were able to go to on demand because there was less filling. The dumpsters weren't filling as quickly, whether it's our cardboard dumpster or our food, and trash dumpster, they weren't quite filling as quickly. So we were able to have it space out a little bit more, which is obviously less trips to the landfill and less expense to us. So there was certainly a cost savings with that. We also do the dual stream recycling. Like I said, we have a cardboard dumpster, but we also have a bunch to recycle all our number 10 cans and the things that we do use in our cardboard boxes. Again, to keep any plastics, we have those separated, and that also gets taken by waste management. But we were able to see a reduction in the amount of dumpsters that we had to pay in the course of a year.
Great, thank you. And I do want to have one final question posed to the panelists before we wrap up. And it's a general question. What do you envision your next step to be in regards to sustainability? probably focused on food waste reduction and diversion, but you can touch upon other sustainability goals if you'd like.
Well, I'll start. I just think for us, I don't know what the next frontier is. I just think it's going to be continue drilling down and getting better at what we're doing. So, you know, our post-consumable waste, to continue to work at that, to get better at eliminating it, and to get better at being able to keep it as clean as possible is the goal. And also, as I mentioned, one of the things we have to work on, while compostable, that we just have so much, we're concerned about the new direction. We have an all-you-care-to-eat facility, and some of it was set up like the old salad bars, you know, self-serve, and that model might be going away. And we have to implement strategy, you know, a more permanent strategy for to-go containers and what we're going to use, whether it's going to be like a system like an Aussie system, or if there's another opportunity that we can find that will work for us in the volume that we need it to be able to. So I think it's just continually improvement, and we've got a basis, but we need to continue to improve and get a finer point on some of these things that there's definitely an opportunity for us to get better.
Kind of for us, the opposite of what you're going through is we've been takeout only since COVID has started. So we're looking forward to, once things start easing off a little bit, maybe doing some outdoor dining, we're going to take our food scraps off the tables and start composting those, because, I mean, we've tried doing it in the past, and it was hard to kind of manage the space in the kitchen for where to dump that food. But since we've had some time on our hands, and since we've had a little bit of room to breathe on our end in the back of the house, we found ways to kind of adapt and make it so that way we can have more space for rescuing some of that food. And even if it's rescuing it to a compost bin, it's diverting it away from the landfill. And that's kind of what our next step is going to be going forward, is making sure that any of the food scraps that we have that are coming out of our kitchen are going to the harvest cycle compost place instead of hitting Johnston landfill, hopefully. So.
From our end, we're working on a little bit more of a medium to longer term end of trying to be a community advocate and conduit for other restaurants, trying to spur a program through this nonprofit that we're beginning to try to divert some of these wastes into more of create a model that can be replicated for doing this in other markets for elementary and high school programs, to try to create a program that kind of cuts into some of the government contracts on those food programs and utilizes some of the federal subsidies available to try to make a bigger splash with it.
All right, well, with that, I think I'll wrap up here. Thank you, Abby, Tom, Christopher, George, and Andrew for your wonderful insights today. And of course, thank you, University of Rhode Island, for inviting CET to organize this panel. We're so appreciative of the opportunity provided by Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management and EPA to offer our no-cost technical assistance, which you've heard plenty about today, to entities across the state. We do hope that you as an attendee are inspired to either start at home, looking at your waste and seeing if there's opportunities, or taking those behavior changes into your business or institution. And the ultimate goal of reducing, rescuing, and repurposing food, really wasted food can really have the opportunity, as Abby outlined, cost savings, meeting your sustainability goals, feeding your community, and so much more. So please don't hesitate to reach out to either our organization or the panelists today if you're looking for support or have any other questions. Thank you.
Thanks again to all our panelists for the day. This has been really educational. I'm actually planning on taking out from North and going to Stone Acre this weekend just to support all our local businesses. And I'm so so proud to say that I work at URI, who has done so much in this effort. And thanks again to the Center for EcoTechnology. It seems like the resource that you're providing to all Rhode Islanders is quite amazing. We really appreciate Leah Cooper and the Harrington School of Communications and Media for helping us with the technology for this event. We hope you'll consider joining us for our next event. We have several upcoming events, but the next event is on Wednesday, March 24th, and will feature a discussion from the USDA Farm Service Agency and the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management on how both these agencies can assist beginning and long-established farmers. Please visit our website again and to sign up and register, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks very much, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their day.